Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Connecting Life podcast. I'm your host, Diana Boskma. I'm here to help you connect the dots of life so that you can live your best life in a healthy and fulfilling way. Today, I'm talking with Sharon Kamas, who's an amazing life coach. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Sharon?
Oh, thank you, Diana. I am an educator, first and foremost, for well over 20 years now. And part of my career has been coaching teachers and administrators. So I made a decision that I wanted to do that on the side too, and then eventually make that my full-time fulfillment. I'm not going to call it a job because I'm having so much fun that it's not really a job. And so I've been doing that for a while now, and I am loving it. And I've been coaching people in all different areas, and it's amazing. People are amazing.
Yep, agree. Thank you. And today, Sharon and I will have a conversation about relationships and finance. And I guess some people wonder, how does that work? Can you tell us how you see that relationships and finance are connected?
Good question. I have found that people have a relationship with money just like they have a relationship with people. And sometimes that relationship is really good. And sometimes that relationship is a little rocky. And I feel like there is a lot of shame around money and finances and the pressure that we put on people with their budgeting and things like that. So I personally have eliminated the word budget from my vocabulary, and I just call it managing money. Or facilitating transactions is another way that we joke about it in my family. And I found that when I talk to clients about that, many times when they are having troubled relationships with family or spouses or partners, a lot of times the underlying cause is finances. And then sometimes the money problems that are the surface problems really are because of an underlying relationship problem. So to me, they fit hand in hand and they're connected in some way. And I think part of me is when people have finance problems, issues, things that they want to solve, goals that they want to meet financially, I want them to not have shame around that.
Yeah.
There's so much secrecy and shame around money and how we spend our money. Yeah. Judgment. Oh, they can't afford this, but they can do that. I thought she said she didn't have any money, but they just went on this elaborate vacation. There are all kinds of situations.
Yeah.
We shouldn't feel shameful about our money. And so I love coaching people so that they eliminate their debt, so that they feel better about their spending, that they can manage their money a little better.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah. It's also interesting, at least for me, to see the cultural differences. Because one of the things that I've noticed that here in the UK, we don't really talk about it. We definitely don't talk about the amount of money we make or anything, because that's not something you talk about unless you really have to. And then it's with, whoever needs to know about that, like when you want to get a mortgage or something. But when I talk with Americans, they're much more likely to tell me how much they're earning. And that seems to be a level of pride that's then there. But then on the other end, it's also a different way of dealing with debt. So here in the UK, you try not to get into debt because it's difficult to get out. Yet in the US, I see a lot more people using credit cards to a point where it becomes problematic for some, not for all.
Right.
And I guess that makes it more complex, because when you end up having to manage debt like that, That can be a difficult one because interest and all these things don't really help you get, it makes managing money harder, I would think.
It's so true. And that is so true. When people really look at where their money is going, and even if they think they are managing the credit card debt, they think they're managing it well because they can make their payments. When they really look at how much interest is being given to somebody else and you get nothing in return, that's a really good insight for a lot of people. And that's when the behavior starts to change, when they see that, I don't have to give away all that money every month. I can do something different. I can make different choices. And there's no shame around that. And a lot of times you could just have them examine, and this is what I did. Just examine, what am I spending my money on? How does it make me feel? If I bought that and I feel good about it, okay, it's great. I'm not going to feel shame around that. But if I bought it and I'm telling myself, why did you do that? Then I can make a different choice. But if I never examine how I'm feeling about the money,
Yep.
Then I don't ever have that reflection, and I don't ever have that opportunity to make different choices.
Yeah. And that can also end up being a big, big thing between two partners. In relationships, that can become so difficult.
Yes, especially if the partners have two different perspectives on how to spend or save money.
Yeah.
And that's where I find the conflict happens, and then they don't want to talk about it because it's sensitive. And so they don't have the discussions that are necessary to get to the next step or get to the next part.
Yeah. And that then becomes a communication thing, because every relationship requires good communication to stay good. In the moment you're not comfortable talking about finances, that's going to be quite a tricky one, because that's a big, big thing in relationships, to make sure you know what you do with your finances, that you agree on certain things as well. I think within a relationship, agreeing on what to do with the money is probably more important than what to do about the back or the front garden, or how to decorate the house, or which sofa to buy.
That's so true.
Because, yeah, the moment you have such different ideas about what you want to do with the money, and don't discuss it, and sometimes even just do it, that will cause quite some friction, I think.
Yeah. And you said something very interesting that made me think, oh, this is why relationships and finances go so closely together, because you talked about communication. And so many times I feel like communication also has a different meaning for every person.
Yes.
And so I might be saying something and I'm trying to communicate to you, but you're not able to receive that because of the way I'm communicating it. And so communication also has to do with receiving information, being able to receive the information, and then also being able to deliver the information in a way that somebody else can take it in. If you've ever heard a couple or a parent and a child say something like, "You're not listening to me." Maybe I am listening, but I don't agree with you. And I'm giving you back information that says I don't agree with you, but you hear it as, you're not listening to me because you don't agree with me.
Yep.
And that causes conflict too.
It does.
Yeah, so communication, relationships, finances, it can get really jumbled.
It can. So one of the things that I've learned over the years is, with communication, you can deliver a message, but you still have no idea what the other person understood. So when you have a conversation about that, as in, I would like this and this and this, do you understand what I'm saying? And then let the other person reflect back. You can often really get a completely different thing back because they have their own thoughts and their own world involved in what you've said.
Yeah.
And it could be a completely different thing that they've understood than what you're trying to say. So having that conversation back and forth until the other person really understands what you're trying to say and that you get the information back that you want
Mhm.
to give to
Mhm.
them, that can really help. And that's irrelevant of who it is, of whether it's a child or a friend or whatever, as
That's
long as
right.
it's important enough. Because one of the things that many years ago, when I would hear parents say, "What did I tell you just now?" and that a child it exactly repeats it back, then I have this saying of, I found it really weird. I understand it a bit better now, but the child repeating exactly back what you've said is probably still not the level of understanding you'd like to have,
That's
but at
right.
least it's checking in with them, which many others don't do. So making sure that someone understands what you're saying is yeah, it can be a bit of a journey to learn how to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You reminded me of something really funny when you said, have the child repeat back, go clean your room. What did I tell you to do? Clean my room. And then they never talked about what the definition of clean means.
Mm, yep.
And so, yeah, you repeated back exactly what the person said, but your interpretation of what that means is very different. That reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I also thought about communication and conversation that you were talking about. And I don't know if everybody does this, but I used to do this a lot. Thank goodness I don't do it anymore. I figured out, it took me a long time, but I figured out it doesn't work. But I used to practice the conversation in my head. What will I say? What will they say? What will I say? What will they say? Yeah, it turns out no matter how much I practice that, the other person is not thinking what I was thinking.
They never do.
The conversation never goes the way that I planned. So that was a great moment when I figured out, don't waste your time practicing conversations because that doesn't work.
No.
Uh,
No, I did that as well. I think many of us do, where you
okay.
want to try to, because you want to try to get a certain message across, and then in your mind, that person is a certain person, which they're not, because they're never the same as what they are in your mind. But then that person in your mind will respond in a certain way, so you expect that person to respond in that way. Unfortunately, they rarely do.
That's so
So,
true.
'cause they're not what you have in your mind. Nobody ever is. Everybody's different in that sense.
Yeah. And you may go in with the best intentions. Okay, I'm going to
Mhm.
practice this conversation so it doesn't escalate. I'm going to practice this conversation so that we can solve a problem, whatever the situation is. And even
Mhm.
whatever person you're talking to, it doesn't even matter. Um, it never works out that way. They are never thinking what you were thinking, and they're never responding the way you think that they should respond. It,
No big. Yeah, they're different than the person you have in your mind.
that's right.
So trying to get more into their world and see what they want and why they want it,
Yeah.
that can be a really good thing to do. Because that reminds me of something we talked about before we got on this recording. Is one person wants to go to the Italian restaurant because they
Yeah.
have the great steak there. The other person wants to go to the Chinese restaurant because they have great outdoor seating there. So you can find in a restaurant that has a good steak and good outdoor seating, which is neither the Italian nor the Chinese one. But that's because you understand the why of why they want to go there. And that's
Yeah.
with so many things that way. Because many people dig their heels in because I want this, but
Mhm.
figuring out why and then finding somewhere that works for both. Or the moment you understand why someone wants it, when I hear that someone wants to go to an Italian restaurant because of the great steak, I love steak, yeah, let's go. Then I don't need the outdoor seating anymore. That can also happen because, the moment you start understanding the why, things can completely shift.
Yeah. No, and it's a beautiful analogy. And it's a good one because it's such a common thing in relationships. Where do you want to eat? I don't care. Where do you want to eat? And let's ask the questions a little differently, and you
Yep.
probably won't have that back and forth and
Yep.
indecisiveness,
Yep.
which I'm notorious for. It doesn't matter to me. Let's just do it. So
It is much easier for others when you have an opinion.
yes, that's true. And I think I need to have that mindset.
Mm.
Because my goal is to make things easier for people, right? And
Mhm.
to have that ease. And yet
Mhm.
sometimes I perpetuate it with thinking that I'm doing them a favor by letting them choose when
Mhm.
let's just make the decision. And
The interesting thing is that we all have a little bit of that people pleaser streak, I think. So everybody wants to make it easy on others. And with that, we all make it so much harder by
it's so
not having an opinion or a choice. And getting the choice done, the moment you say that you want to go to the Italian restaurant, they can come up with all sorts of reasons of why they would or would not want to go there. And when you're not stuck to the Italian restaurant, they'll come up with something and then
yeah,
it's sorted.
yeah. And sometimes that's very interesting. Not that we need to talk about restaurants the whole time, but that's very interesting because you'll make your decision. You'll come up with a thing that you think suits everybody. It's something that you like. And then they'll go, yeah, that's not really what I wanted anyway. How about this? And you're right. When you're not so stuck to the
Mm-hmm.
decision, then you're okay with making that shift and change. And,
Yeah.
and then they realize what they really wanted in the first place. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
for me, it's usually this thing of I'll name something, but I can find something on any menu because there's always good food to be had wherever I go. So I name something and then, no, let's go. And it just saves so much time as in you choose. No, you choose. You just
Yes,
doesn't
that's
bring much.
true.
And that's, one of those things with relationships.
It's true. And that works on so many different levels.
It does. Yeah.
And you gave some great examples about um, relationships and making choices with money. And maybe it's not important if we redo the front garden,
Mm.
but what I really wanted was this, but
Mhm.
I expressed it by saying this, and I
Mhm.
didn't communicate that message.
Yep.
And the reason that the other person didn't want to spend the money is because there was something else going on and they didn't communicate that. So
Mhm.
it causes that conflict
Yep.
when could have been avoided.
Yeah. And when you're in that conflict, there's also the thing of stepping back. Let's backpedal a bit. Here it went wrong. Let me be more clear because I wasn't clear enough. Let me be clear about why I want to do that. And the
Mhm.
moment that's understood and the why is there, the why is on the table, people tend to have this thing, yeah, makes sense. How can we make this happen without causing the issue that the other person saw? Frequently, there's quite a good compromise to be found where both parties can be happy. But it is about communicating why you want what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another little dynamic that comes into play sometimes
Hmm.
there with hurt feelings or
Yep.
um, you don't value me.
Hmm.
Um, you said that because you don't value me. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's a really unique dynamic that comes into play because you have to balance being able to
Yeah.
share your thoughts and feelings and feel safe enough to do
Hmm.
so.
Yep.
And then the other person has to feel safe and confident enough in the relationship that they can hear it.
Yeah.
Because you having a hurt feeling or feeling sad about something is not necessarily a reflection on anything they did or said to you. But we take it so personally.
Hmm. That's one of those things that I've had to learn over the years is that don't assume anything because the way they mean it is usually not to hurt me. It's because of what's going on in their mind and in their world. So it has nothing to do with me. They have their choice for their reasons, nothing to do with me. And then taking it personal is again this thing of then I'm thinking they're out to get me. But would they really? No.
Yeah.
Most people don't even think about anything like that because people don't wake up with the whose life can I ruin today? No, they do things because it's in their best interest. It's not about me or anybody else. It's about making sure their life goes well. And the moment you can see that, and especially in relationships, when you don't assume things about the other and you don't take it personal, communication goes so much easier, because then you can figure out why they want what they want.
Mm-hmm.
The moment the why is more clear, then you can both share the whys. Or when it's about 3 or 4 people or a whole family of 10, whatever it is, when everybody gets to have their say without others assuming what their hidden agenda is or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and not taking things personal, it becomes so much easier to talk about things.
Yeah, that's so true. And yet we still battle that as human beings on a regular basis,
Yep.
when it could be like, if we just practiced, if everybody just practiced, I hear you saying this. Is this what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is this how you meant to say that?
Yeah.
Just practice a few little things to be open to listening, and
Yep.
open, not just listening, but open to understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had at some point a conversation with a couple. She was really angry. He was not, when they came into the conversation. And she really had to verbalize her anger. And then he wanted to talk, and I said, just wait. So I asked her whether she meant what I understood. And then it was this, no, I didn't mean it that way. Well, what did you mean then? So again, she came back with why she was angry. And then again, I reflected back until everybody understood what she meant. And then she had to say, actually, it's not that big a deal. It took a couple of times, but her anger had nothing to do with him in the end. It had to do with her own thoughts. And once she realized that, it was all relaxed. And so they really changed their way of communicating, which was really amazing to see. Because just talking about, did you mean this to say,
Mhm.
or I understood this, it really helps. It really helps someone hear, because people tend to not hear what they're saying,
That's
because they're
true.
saying it from their thoughts, but they're not listening to it. So the moment it gets reflected back, even with the exact same words, because I only use the exact same words, so I didn't want to interpret anything. And then,
Right.
no, it wasn't like that. So the exact same words, hearing them back, made her realize that it was way too harsh. And actually, in the end, it wasn't all that important, because it was not a big deal. And
That's so
that's
true.
fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating. And that really brings up a good point. I, several years ago, and it's been almost 10 years now, um, I had a coach, and there was nothing in my life that was, if I don't do this, things are going to crumble. And there wasn't this, I thought I needed a coach kind of feeling.
Hmm.
It was something that I reflected and wanted to be better. And I had some things that I wanted to accomplish, and it changed my life.
Hmm.
It changed my life. And I didn't know I needed a coach. I didn't think I needed a coach. And yet it did so much for me.
Yeah.
And so since then, I've said everybody needs a coach. They just don't know about it yet. They just
Yeah.
don't know.
That's my perspective as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
From the first time I got coached, I had this thing of, wow, this is life changing.
Yeah.
So I've not been without a coach ever since.
Yeah.
Life's
It
so
is.
much better, so much more growth. And also, one of the things that I've really valued, which has also been the hardest to experience, is my blind spots being pointed out.
Oh, that's terrible. It's
It
hard.
hurts, but
It
it
hurts.
solves so much.
But it's kind of like childbirth. It only hurts for a little while, and then you forget about the pain, because you just get to enjoy
Yeah.
the 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 outcome. You
Mm,
get to experience that wonderful other side of it
yeah.
once you see those blind spots and you address them.
More
But you're
vision.
right. It is. Reflection is the
Mm,
hardest thing to do.
yeah. Also the best.
It is. It is the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. So we've been talking for quite a bit,
Yeah,
and
this
I
has
think
been
we should
fun.
slowly wrap up. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really good. So I want to thank you for joining me today. because I really had a great time. And then I have one more question for you. So when viewers or listeners would like to contact you, how can they do that?
Oh, you're sweet. I'm on Facebook. The name is Kamas, like famous, only not so much yet. And it's spelled a little differently, so it's Kamas. And also email is good, kamas.coaching@gmail.com.
Okay.
That's a good email address. Or Facebook. I love messaging on Facebook and having new friends on Facebook too.
Cool. I will, of course, share your information in the notes of the video so that people can just copy paste, because that'll make it easier for them. So yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you for today. This was lovely, and I always love talking to you.
Yeah, it's been good. And we'll do it again at some point, no doubt.
I love it. Love it.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.